Hey everybody, Clay Lehman with Resolute Property Management. Today's video is directed towards first-time landlords. Whether you've sought out buying a property for investment, you've been gifted or inherited a property, or let's say, and this happens frequently, you're seeking to move and you don't want to sell your house yet. Those are all great reasons why someone might become a first-time landlord. This video is just meant as a starting point because there's so much information out there and there's so much for you to know. We thought we'd boil it down to a couple of high-level points as a starting point. To provide just some context as to why I'm talking to you about this, I've been in real estate for the past 10 years, managed tons of houses, tons of tenants. I'm also a real estate investor myself with a small portfolio of rental homes. So I've got a little bit of experience when it comes to what risks and opportunities we face. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is why is owning a rental property such a great opportunity? Owning a rental property is a tremendous way to build wealth. Because think about it. Let's just say that you own a $120,000 property. Okay, well you own it. Well, there's a mortgage payment that's due. Well, if you have it rented, you never make that mortgage payment. Someone else makes it for you. You collect your rent, you pay the mortgage, and if you've done things right, there's a little bit left over for you to save, for upcoming repairs and have a little bit of cash flow. And at the end of the mortgage period, 20 or 30 years, this is now a paid off asset that you own free and clear and presumably have experienced some appreciation. The other thing that's really great about owning a rental property is there are a lot of tax advantages. You get to write off depreciation and other expenses related to the home. There's a ton of opportunities to improve your tax situation that you should discuss with an actual CPA. Those are the opportunities. Now, this is not a risk-free endeavor. And this is an area where I feel like sometimes first-time landlords can be overwhelmed, and that is thinking about the risks. Some of those risks that you're concerned about are damages that occur to the home, putting in a non-paying tenant, putting in a nightmare tenant. That's part of it. Another part of the risk is liability. We live in a very lawsuit-happy culture. Just drive down any road and you'll see the so-and-so won me $400,000. Well, as a landlord, you have some exposure here. But what I'm here to assure you of, each of these risks and the other risks you face can be minimized or reduced. I don't ever want to say eliminated, but in terms of your liability, you can purchase liability insurance and should always purchase liability insurance when you own a rental. In terms of the risk of non-payment, you can screen your tenants and be prepared that from time to time you may have to pursue something like an eviction, but if you're prepared and if you screen your tenants, you're going to minimize that risk. And the same holds true for damages. If you care for the home appropriately, you can do it in a manner that minimizes your big outlays, and that's why the next thing we're going to talk about is so critical as a first-time landlord to start working on your rainy day fund. Because wow, I don't know when it'll happen and I don't know exactly what will happen, something will happen that you will need some capital to hold you through, whether it's a non-paying tenant, if it's a large repair, things like that can come up. And if you don't have a rainy day fund, it creates so much more stress and tension. What I would recommend is, to the greatest degree possible, start with some money in savings to cover potential issues. But as you make cash flow on your rental, don't take that money out until you've saved. And I don't know what the guideline would be exactly. I like to have 6 months of rent in a rainy day fund for each of my rentals. It's sometimes easier said than done, but you should be able to get there by stripping out your cash flow, putting it aside. And then once you have that in place, then you can start using that cash flow for other things. But it's so critical to have a rainy day fund. The other thing I would tell you that you are responsible for is familiarity with landlord and tenant laws. No, you don't have to be an expert, but you can't, if you go to court, whether that's on an eviction or any other matter, in front of the court, they aren't going to excuse ignorance, to say, oh, that's okay, you didn't know. If you're going to be a landlord, you do need to have some familiarity with landlord-tenant laws. I would recommend engaging an attorney in some manner, whether that's a friend of yours that you just can talk to, or if in a professional manner you need to hire them on a small retainer. just make sure that you have access to legal advice, because wow, again, I don't want this to scare you. There is a lot of value in having an expert that you can rely on in this area. Now, the next thing is to talk about where to get started. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's so many resources out there and so much noise. I really like the BiggerPockets forum. So biggerpockets.com is a marketplace, or really I shouldn't call it a marketplace, but it's a gathering place for investors, whether that's active investors, new investors, and they have tons of resources that are available either for free or for like a small membership fee. And then they also have these this great series of books that you can purchase from them. I really like their books because they're written by investors for investors. I would also encourage you, and this is not in a self-serving manner, but I would encourage you to talk to a property manager and consider utilizing a professional. There is so much value that can be gained for a landlord in using a property manager. But actually what I also want to say is always treat it like a business, whether you hire a property manager or not. Make sure that it's fine to be compassionate and work with your tenants. And I certainly don't encourage anyone to be a cold-hearted landlord, but just make sure that you are treating it like a business and that you make clear up front to your tenants that you are entering into a legal agreement. You as the landlord have legal responsibilities which you will live up to, but make clear to them that they as the tenant have legal responsibilities that they will be held responsible for. That's so critically important. The reason I thought of that as I was plugging or talking about engaging a property manager is you can get that separation when working through a property manager. Sometimes I've found when we do have landlords that have managed themselves, then they call us and say, hey, would you take over? They're frustrated because their tenant hasn't paid in months and nothing has happened. Well, most property managers would advise you that one of the reasons the tenant hasn't paid in months is because you've let the tenant not pay for months. That's not a accusation. It's just, when we have a tenant that's not paying, we pursue certain legal avenues. That's not to say we evict everyone, but we hold them to a standard that sometimes, when you're doing it yourself as a landlord, you won't. So that's just to say that there is a lot of value in managing with a property manager. But I also would like to share with you that Resolute Property Management has created a series of do-it-yourself landlord videos that are meant for anyone that's doing it themselves. There's no pitch in them, there's no obligation. We just want for, in general, landlords to be equipped to do a better job. And we provide these videos with tips and ideas on how you can manage on your own. And we'll include a link to that and it's on our YouTube channel, but we'll include a link to everything below. That's it. Good luck. Congratulations. I'm excited for you. It is a really great way to build wealth and to kind of secure your future in a way that you can actively participate. And if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe. I'm Clay Lehman with Resolute Property Management.